I surprised myself with how joyous I sounded in that hey, because I'm honestly in a very irritable mood. Mainly because perhaps this is TMI, but I like to be honest, and actually, this whole channel is about TMI. It's that time of month, it's the first day of that time of month, and I feel achy and grumpy, and I feel like this is a perfect day to do this video though, because it's teaching me about how far I've come, or showing me how far I've come, and I hope that this inspires you guys. It is already a week into the year, so we have like 51 weeks left, which sounds like nothing when you put it that way. And it's been a really good start to 2018 for me. And today I've just witnessed a lot about myself, and reflecting on it like that I think it's the power of reflection, especially when you're working towards goals, to look forward to where you want to go, and then look back from where you've come, and then be present and say, like, where am I right now? And I have done an extraordinary amount of growth even in just the past few weeks, which is really exciting. And it's like bringing up some emotions for me too, thinking about it, because one thing I've realized that I've faced so much throughout my life, but became very aware of in 2017, was just resistance. It seemed like resistance was the theme. And that reminds me, one thing I wanted to do a few days ago and forgot about, so this will hold me accountable, but hopefully you guys will try this out as well, is to have a word of the year. And I haven't quite figured out what it is, but I feel like it's got to be something like the opposite of resistance. Maybe it's breakthrough. Maybe I was thinking like limitless, because I want to work through a lot of limiting beliefs that I have. I know that those are getting in my way. And I've noticed how much I've worked through resistance, and that's what I wanted to share with you guys today and talk about. If you're watching live, you can share in the comments and reflect upon it for yourselves. I signed up to do a 30-day yoga challenge, which is technically just like 30 yoga classes in a month, the month of January. They do this, I think, once every 3 months at my yoga studio, and I've never done it before. I feel like I might have done a challenge at a different yoga studio, but I can't remember, so that probably means I didn't do it. I don't think I did it. I think this is really the first time I've ever tried to do 30 yoga classes in 1 month. And it's kind of common at hot yoga studios, which is the type that I do. So the reason it's not quite 30 days of yoga for me is because I went out of town a few days last week, which was the first week of January, and I have some other things that might come up this month that will get in the way of me doing it every single day. But what I'm doing is making up the days that I'm out of town, and luckily I think there's 31 days in this month, right? So technically I get like one bonus day in the month. So it's not quite as hard as it sounds. Yesterday I did 2 yoga classes in one day, and yesterday was a really intense day. Needless to say, it sounds really crazy to do 2 yoga classes in one day. I don't know if I've ever done that before. Maybe once in all the years. I've been doing yoga. I think I first started doing yoga in 2008, and then was doing it off and on for a while, and then got really consistent with it over the past few years. And so yesterday I did one class at 9 a.m. and one class at 6 p.m. The 6 p.m. class was what they call a yin class. And yin is really incredible if you've never tried it before, because it's usually a little over an hour, and it's about getting really deep into your muscles so that you can get into them in a different way. So you're not moving very fast. You actually hold poses for usually anywhere between like 3 to 10, 15 minutes. In the hot yoga yin classes, we hold them for about 5 minutes, but that's still a lot longer than traditional, other forms of yoga where You will be moving frequently. You might hold a pose for a few seconds, a few breaths, but it's it's not very common to hold them for several minutes. And it's not the yin is really interesting because it can feel painful, but like in a very relaxing way, if that makes sense. And it was really intense for me last night. I don't know if it's because I've been doing so much yoga already, but I was pushing myself to get deeper into muscles and fight through resistance. And that's obviously the theme of this video. And something that I'm really working on and encourage you guys to work on too is where are your where are the obstacles getting in the way for you emotionally? And what happens for many of us is resistance. We may have goals and dreams, and the only reason that thing that stops us from reaching those things for most cases, except for like physically impossible things like wishing that you were a mermaid. I don't know why that's the first thing that came to mind. Or like wishing you were younger. Like there's some physically impossible dreams. But many of our dreams and goals are pretty practical, even the ones that seem crazy. I can't remember if I said this in a video here, but I have this massive financial goal for myself, for my career. And I know I'm going to get there, but it seems very, it just seems huge for me. And I know that I've broken through a lot of resistance because it doesn't seem as daunting as it had in the past, which is a great sign. So that's something to look out for. When you feel so confident in yourself, despite not knowing how you've gotten there, how you're going to get there, how long it's going to take, despite never have getting there before, having that experience, if you can feel that confident about it, that's usually a good sign that you're breaking down limiting beliefs and resistance. But the reason I brought up yoga is because there's a lot of physical resistance in yoga, and that's probably the reason I'm so drawn to it. Is yoga is really a combination between physical, emotional, spiritual things. So when you go into class, if you have the right kind of teacher and the right setup, they won't just lead you through physical movements. They're also talking about a lot of emotional sides of things. And I start to crave it because it is kind of like a form of therapy. And it's just very like releasing. And also there's a lot of evidence that certain muscles kind of hold emotions. Like one of the common ones is your hips. Like we apparently hold a lot of stored up emotions and trauma in our hips or any of our really tight parts of our bodies. So last night when I was in my yin yoga class, I was working on my hips in a really deep way. And I remember sitting there thinking like, this is really uncomfortable. It wasn't painful per se. It just felt incredibly uncomfortable and I wanted it to end. But I also knew that the longer I stayed in that pose and really just breathed into it, which is another big part of yoga, and just said, this is good for me, this is important for me, this is going to help me reach my yoga goals, and it's also going to impact me in many different elements of my life. And that moment, that experience in that class last night felt to me so like representative of a lot of things that I'm going through in my life. And I felt very proud of myself in that moment because one thing that you learn through going through yoga is that there's a lot of times where you're going to feel uncomfortable, where it might be painful, where it might seem really challenging, but a really good yoga instructor will push you to work through that and to do your very best to stay in that pose unless it's like a type of pain that's like dangerous pain, right? Like there's certain types of pain that are indicating that we shouldn't be doing things, but there's a lot of pain, and this is the resistance part of it, there's a lot of pain that is more attached to our emotions, and it's not dangerous types of pain. It might be just that we found these ways to create obstacles for ourselves and barriers of breaking through, right? And that's what I just want to spend so much time working through myself and helping other people with. As you guys probably know, I do a lot of coaching, and a huge focus of my coaching this year is helping people through resistance. That's where my heart is so much. And maybe even my work with the Eco Vegan Gal will go a lot in that direction. As you may know, I have the Eco Vegan Pal community, and I'm about to relaunch it and welcome in a lot of new students who have signed up for it, which is really exciting. And I've just been spending the past few weeks, almost 2 months, like really reflecting on how I can best serve those new people and what do they need. And when I really tune into what I yearn to help people with, it's about helping people realize how capable they are, helping people get over emotional obstacles, because I've experienced them firsthand, and I know what it's like to get over some. I haven't gotten all of mine. I don't know if I ever will, but I'm constantly working through that because I see the benefits of it over and over again. And I also see what happens to people when they don't push through those obstacles. What happens to people when they believe the limiting beliefs, when they allow themselves to be stuck in their resistance. And I so often witness in other people this kind of like heartbreak or just sadness because they know that they could be reaching those goals and the dreams that they really want, but they haven't figured out how to emotionally get there, right? And I just find that incredibly heartbreaking because, again, I know what that feels like. I face that all the time. I see so much potential in myself, and I just have so much knowledge in my head, but the only thing that's getting in the way of implementing everything and reaching everything that I want to go to is my own personal resistance. So it's like shedding all those layers, and that's, a huge part of the journeys that I share here on this channel. Sometimes it's really hard to share what I'm going through emotionally because I feel like I'm airing out all my like dirty laundry, my weaknesses, but then I also know that I am going to reach these big goals that I have, and I hope that this shows a document serves as like a document for you guys that what happens as a result of working through. That I didn't just like snap my fingers and reach the goals that I'm going to reach eventually. It's that you guys get to witness that evolution, and my goal in that is, in sharing all of this, is that each of you will know that you can do this too, because we're so much alike. Like when I read your comments, when I learn more about each of you, I recognize how similar we are, and it's so incredible. And I think one of the most helpful things for making progress in life is realizing that you're not alone, and that there are other people out there that think like you, that act like you, that go through the same thing. So that's a huge reason that I share. It's also very, very helpful to share, right? And I encourage you guys to do your own sharing, whether it's through YouTube or in person or whatever, mechanism, platform, journaling, for example. The other thing that I wanted to share that's kind of like the overarching message of this, but getting into more of the specifics, is today's been a challenging day for me, and I get really frustrated when I when I things don't kind of go as planned. I've been called one of a painful names that people have called me before, but is not entirely. Okay. One of the worst things that somebody could call me, the most painful thing, is a control freak. My mom would call me that sometimes, or my sister, or like family members. I feel like tend to say those things as just like a hurtful, like when somebody wants to hurt you, they say mean things like that, right? But the reason they say that is because I do have a deep desire to control things. I think that's part of how I feel safe, right? Is I like to plan. I've noticed this a lot about myself lately, for better or for worse, is I'm a very, very good planner, but I also feel incredibly uncomfortable when I can't plan, or I'm not allowed to plan, or when things don't go according to plan. It's very uncomfortable for me. Planning equals safety, because then I can account for the worst case scenario, or just be prepared for things and all of that. And that's just comfortable to me, right? And I think recognizing the things that feel comfortable and safe to us is helpful, because I also know deep down that sometimes I don't have control and things will not go according to plan, and that's all right. So today's one of those days. I think I mentioned this in the last video, but in case you didn't watch it or I didn't say it, I have planned out the entire month of January. Pretty much every single day is planned, and there's room in each day for things to shift. That's part of how I like to plan, is I like to leave room for unexpected things. So even when things don't go as planned, I still have room accounted for that. That's like the type A person that I am. And I've also planned out a great majority of this year. Reason being is because I have such big goals, and a way for me to work through the resistance is to really look at what I want to achieve and create a strategy for it. And I've noticed about myself that if I have structure in place, I will usually follow that structure, and that leads to more success. What happened a lot for me last year, and I think even the year before, is that I would just kind of wake up and base my day on my mood. So if I was feeling up for something, I would do it. But if I was feeling really tired or lazy, my day would be very, uneventful and unproductive. And what would happen, a big pattern for me, was that I would have a lot of those days. At first, I was like, oh yeah, like just like this is good for you. Like you should just sleep in later, and you should sleep whatever hours you want, and you should just do whatever you feel like. This is your life. Like live it up, and like this is part of being an entrepreneur, is like you can do whatever you want, right? Like that was a lot of my mentality. And I think that there's parts of that are true and helpful, right? Like that's one of the beauty of the path that I've chosen as an entrepreneur, is that I really can do whatever I feel like. And the truth is, most people, I should say, sadly, maybe not all, but most of us do have the privilege of being able to do whatever we want. I don't like the words "I can't," because it's rarely true, especially for us in what we call free countries, whatever that means for the rest of the world. But in many of these very developed countries that are based in democracy, we have the ability to choose how we want to live our lives. And it's a massive gift. Not everybody has that. Not everybody has the capabilities. Not everyone has an internet connection yet, or the technology. Like there's so much that's handed to us. So when I hear people say that they can't do something, and they're so similar to me, they have a lot of the same access and privileges as I do, it drives me crazy, and that goes towards most of you guys. Like, please don't use the words "I can't." Like, again, unless it's like a physical impossibility, using the words "I can't" is rarely an honest phrase. And the more that you notice that, the more that you accept that reality and see how much power and freedom you have, the more that you are able to make things happen. I mean, I feel like the words "I can't" are a huge reflection of resistance. It's an excuse for many of us. If we can say that we can't do something, or we have to do something that we don't really want to do, then we're basically, in a way, like kind of saying that we're choosing that, right? Like that's the other thing, is when people say I don't have time, for example, is another big pet peeve of mine. It's most honestly, and most honestly, that they're choosing not to prioritize the time for something. You probably heard me say this before, but I'll say it again as a reminder, because it's so important to me, is we all have about the same amount of time. We never know when our time will be up, when our lives are going to be end, and we never know what's going to happen from day to day. And there's of course all these things we don't have control over, but for many of us, our days are very flexible, and we have the same amount of minutes and seconds in each of these days if we're alive. So you do have pretty much all the time that you want. It's just a matter of what you're choosing to do with it, right? So that's why scheduling is so huge. There's all sorts of studies about this. I just finished a great book about all this research that was done on high performers and how, what were the big things that led to them being very successful. And one of the big lessons from this was that planning things out, scheduling things out is huge. So that's why I planned out so much of my month. Now, coming back to today, I woke up a little after I wanted to, but not too much. I went and did something and it felt, I think I was like feeling pretty much on track, maybe like 30 minutes behind. But the first project I decided to work on today, I gave myself 2 hours to work on it between the hours of like 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. And I have not finished that work yet. And it's incredibly frustrating. I think that, I don't know if I technically underestimated how long it was going to take, but I may have gone slower with the process. Like, I think, in honesty, by working longer on this one project, I was avoiding doing work on some other ones that felt harder, right? So that's something that I've identified in myself and want to encourage you guys to reflect on is like, what are you avoiding? I mean, sometimes when people say I can't or I don't have time, like that's really them saying they're trying to avoid doing something else, right? Or have an excuse for not doing something. And so I got frustrated with myself today and like in a very bad mood for most of the day. And I was like, why is this taking so long? And should I even be working on this today? And I've been going back and forth in my head about my priorities and just like creating a lot of unnecessary tension. And the way that I worked through, oh, also I signed up to go to yoga and the next starts in 45 minutes. So I have to wrap this up relatively soon so I can make time for that. But I don't want to go to yoga tonight, you guys. Like I signed up for the hardest yoga class tonight because of this challenge I'm doing. Kind of requires me to go to this class. I really don't want to. I'm dreading it. It's an hour and a half hot yoga class. It's not my favorite. Like I'm just like, ugh, feeling so annoyed. But I made a commitment to it. And this is huge too, is that part of scheduling things for me is that I'm starting to take my schedule very seriously. And I would encourage you guys to do this too. I think I heard someone say this in passing. Yeah, I'm almost positive it was at the yoga studio. This girl said, you know what? I signed up for the class, so I came to it, and I honored my commitment to myself. And I was like, whoa. Because sometimes in the past, I would sign up for things and I wouldn't go. How many times do you guys do that? I mean, let me tell you, because I host a lot of events. Events are becoming a bigger and bigger part of my career. It's so frustrating when somebody signs up to come to an event of mine and they don't show up. And it's part of running events. Like, it's just like a certain percentage of people are going to sign up and not come. That's just kind of the way things work, unfortunately. But it's a pet peeve of mine. But I've been guilty of that too. And I'm sure you guys have as well. And this year I want to change that. I want to have more integrity with my word. Because I think that when you sign up for something and don't go, that's resistance right there. You wouldn't have signed up for something if you didn't really want to go. Every once in a while we do things and then we change our minds and we realize it's not really what we want. So that's kind of different. But let's just say you're like, wow, this sounds great. I want to do this. And you sign up for it. And then the day comes around, you're like, I don't really feel like it. Oh, I'm feeling really tired. I'm feeling lazy. I've worked too hard. And we come up with all of these things, especially for me with yoga. And this is part of the reason this challenge is so important to me, is because committing to 30 days of yoga, or 30 days of yoga in a row, that is telling me like I have to go because I committed to it. So I'm going despite the resistance. I don't want to go tonight, but I'm going anyways. And let me tell you, every time I go to a yoga class, even when I don't want to go, I'm grateful that I went. So knowing that, I have to keep reminding myself of that and honoring my commitment to myself. And I cannot wait till I get to the end of these 30 days and can really congratulate myself for that. Like, it's going to be a huge thing. I'm only, it's day 8. and I've done like 6 or 7 classes so far. I still have to make up for a few, but you know, that it feels like it's going so slow. But by the end of the month, you know, January 30th or 31st is going to be here before we know it, and I'm going to be like, wow, I can't believe I did that. Like, that's a really cool feeling. So I encourage you guys to do that too. This is a time of resolutions. This is a time of goal setting for a lot of people. And even if you're not a big fan of that stuff, like, challenge yourself to commit to something that helps you reach a certain goal. I want to, you know, achieve so much through yoga that, you know, it's just so silly to face any of the resistance. And it's also about getting rid of patterns of resistance. And that's probably maybe one of the final notes I'll make in this video, is that if you have a habit of resisting things, if you have a pattern of resistance where you allow yourself to make up excuses, you allow yourself to slack off, you allow yourself to change your mind too frequently about the things that you've committed to, why are you doing that, and how is it serving you, and what would it look like if you changed things around? What would your life be like if you said that you're going to do things differently in a positive way, to honor the commitment to yourself and to other people, everybody that affects, to just challenge yourself to see what would happen if you did things differently? And it is not always comfortable. In fact, it's when we do things differently, it's usually uncomfortable for quite a while, if not the whole time, until we reach a goal. There's a great video that I posted for those of you who are in my Creative Wealth Facebook group. If you're not, let me know if you want to be part of it. I think you might be able to search for it for Facebook and ask to be in the group. It's called Creative Wealth, and wealth is spelled W-E-L-L-T-H. It's a private Facebook group for content creators who are working towards generating income. So the combination between wellness and wealth is the word wealth, with W-E-L-L-T-H. And a video I posted in there, I think on January 1st, made me cry, and I'll link to it here if I remember, but the video I posted was of this video from a movie or something, of a coach, and the coach it was like a football coach, and he was yelling at the kid on the team to push through, and the kid kept saying he couldn't do it, and he wanted to give up, and the coach just said, just received a slightly rude comment. I don't know what that means. I think I shamed my armpits. But if you're just saying that to be rude, this is not the place, because I don't tolerate rude comments. But thanks for making me laugh and letting me check my ego for a second. Anyways, so back to this video. It's about this coach who's pushing one of his students really far. And he's yelling at him the whole time to keep going. And at this video, I just was crying while I was watching it, because it brought up these feelings of so much resistance that I've faced, and wanting to be my own coach, but also knowing that this year I want to seek out a really great coach for myself, who will do that in, you know, whatever form, who will really push me to keep going. Because without a really good coach or support group around you, and somebody who's going to be honest with you and really push you to go beyond what you think are your limits, to really push you to reach your full potential, a lot of us will not achieve what we are fully capable of, will not reach our full potential. And I just want you guys to know that I'm here for you, and you know, I do the business coaching, so if any of you are content creators and want to work with me, I'm here for that. And I also will be doing kind of similar things in the Eco Vegan Pal, not so much as a coach necessarily, I don't think, but I've got a lot of things that I'm setting up in there to really help people push themselves to be the best that they can be. and a lot gentler. So my eco vegan gal and eco vegan pal communities are more, kind of the light version of that. But all my business stuff, like, the biggest lessons I've learned are from people that have pushed me, and so that's about it. I am gonna go, speaking of which, get ready for yoga. Thank you guys so much for watching. I also wanted to address, and honestly, I don't know what that comment from Board AZ meant, so did I forget? I still don't understand, like, what part of me is not shaved. But here's the thing too, honestly, with you say you love my channel, but I do want to say that one thing I'm really shedding this year is I don't have a tolerance for rudeness, you guys. Like, I think it's easy for things to be misinterpreted, but pushing people, I think we can do that in a very kind, constructive way. If you don't have something nice to say, maybe to try to phrase it in the kindest way you can, in a supportive way, and asking people if they want to change too is huge. That's a big thing that I've learned as a coach, is you can only push somebody as far as they want to change. So I this year I just want to surround myself with very positive, supportive people, and I'm just have less and less tolerance for rudeness and judgment. And I think the society in general, there's a big movement right there now. Is like, especially as a woman, like there's a huge movement for more respect towards women, and I think there's still a lot of disrespect happening on channels like YouTube, and I just don't want any part of it. So I basically have a zero tolerance policy, but I will definitely give this person who wrote that comment a chance, because maybe they're making a joke. But I don't think it's okay to joke about people's appearances, honestly. To say things like, "Did you forget to shave?" Like, what are you trying to say? Like, you know what I mean? Why would you make a comment about something that, does it look like I have hair on my lip from the shadows in here? I don't know, but you're welcome to explain yourself. Otherwise, I'll be kindly banning you from my channel, because I just don't have tolerance for it. But before I go, I do want to just read Zigzag's comment about yoga class. I will certainly fill you guys in more as the journey continues. And then what Jen did, thank you for your thoughts. I'm looking forward to holding myself more accountable in 2018. Thank you so much for the sweet words, Jen. I appreciate that. Here's the thing. It's like when people make comments about me on YouTube, it's like, you guys, like, it might look like I have bags under my eyes, or like I've gotten comments about my throat, or like various, it's like, I don't wear makeup in most of these videos. I don't brush my hair before the uncensored videos. Like, my uncensored videos are literally just me, where I'm at that moment. So if the lighting is unflattering and my clothes aren't right, or my bed's not made, whatever, like, it's not about that. Like, I'm here to share messages and be real with you guys. And it strikes a chord in me, a sensitivity in me, because I grew up with a mother who, if she saw these videos, she would have constant criticism. So it's a sensitive subject for me, I recognize. But I think also we're just in this time where we need to let go of all these judgments of one another. And if we feel judgmental of other people, it's usually a reflection of ourselves. So I have to check myself, because I can be judgmental of people too. I'm not like, what's the word? I don't know. I judge people as well, and I need to be mindful of when I do that, because that usually means it's bringing up an insecurity of myself. So I get it. I get the desire to judge. I just don't have a tolerance for it, because I know that we can all do better than that, and be more loving and supportive of people, and create a good, positive community. There's no need for us to criticize. If you don't like something, go find something that you do like. That's what I believe. All right, I really have to go, otherwise I'm going to be late, and I'm committed to this class, so I'm going to go. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you very, very soon. I promise, Board AZ, my armpits are shaved. They might be like slightly long, but I don't think that you can tell from here. All right, and if you have something about unshaved armpits, maybe you should look into that, right? Like, some women don't shave their armpits. Is that a bad thing? I'm just saying. All right, enough about that. I'll talk to you guys later. Love to you all.